Hi, I'm Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and welcome to Nerd News. This is the show for comic book fans where I go over all the cool nerd news from the last week and give you the lowdown on what's happening in the world of geekdom. Our first story this week, we're going to cover the J. Scott Campbell redraw controversy that came up. Someone going by the name Non-Binary Finn Mertens, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, decided to take it upon themselves to fix J. Scott Campbell's Mary Jane from the Amazing Spider-Man 601 cover. I first learned about this story by following J. Scott Campbell's Instagram, where he posted a kind of explanation of what he thought of the fixed version of his classic cover drawing. He went point by point on what he didn't think really came out too great in that fixed version of the drawing. And personally, I'm inclined to agree. I find the idea that the drawing needed fixing of any kind to be problematic. You could make the argument that you're not a fan of J. Scott Campbell's style, and plenty of people don't particularly enjoy his style. That's perfectly fine. That's the way art works. But a lot of people really enjoy his style. I do have some bias here. I'm a fan of J. Scott Campbell's. I've enjoyed pretty much his work over his entire career. So I definitely have that perspective going into this story. But still, I have to agree with J. Scott Campbell. The fixed version of his drawing has some serious errors in it. Now, I think J. Scott Campbell did something pretty cool with this. He took it a little bit as a challenge. He did make some comments that defended his artwork or kind of poked fun of the reinterpretation of his drawing. And I think that was well within his rights. But he also did something pretty neat. He redrew the original cover in taking into account the fixes that this person had recommended. But he did it better, and the end result was a pretty cool original piece of art. I think what's even cooler about that is he then put up that original piece of art in an auction, and all the proceeds from that auction went to charity. That original sketch ended up selling for $14,700, which is fantastic, and I'm sure the charity is going to be super happy to get those proceeds. Lastly, this did spark kind of an interesting little trend. There's now a Draw It in Your Style challenge that J. Scott Campbell has created for Amazing Spider-Man 607, which is another classic cover from around the same time as the Mary Jane cover, only this one's a Felicia Hardy Black Cat cover. And people are going nuts with this challenge. There's some amazing artwork that's come from it. And I think he's taken this negative experience and really spun it into a positive thing. And I guess my closing thoughts on this are, it's okay to recreate someone's art style and try to make it better in your own eyes, but be careful when you go around criticizing that person's artwork, especially if you don't want to have your own artwork criticized by a professional artist. And this person said that they wanted people to go easy on them. In my opinion, this story started out a little bit negative, but it ended up being kind of positive and cool, and that's something we can all walk away happy with. In our first bit of CGC related news, they announced a slew of new CGC in-house signing events. The first one they announced was a Jim Starlin signing. Jim Starlin's just a mega figure in the world of comics creators. They're doing an in-house signing event with Jim Starlin, and all item submissions are due by June 25th, 2021 for the Jim Starlin signing. Next up, they announced that John Romita Jr. and Scott Hanna would be doing a signing, and my assumption is this is going to be a very popular one, as John Romita Jr. especially has done tons of important covers and interior art for a lot of important comics over the years. Those submissions are due by August 13th, 2021. And the last signing that was announced this week was Sarah Frazetta. Sarah Frazetta is the granddaughter of Frank Frazetta, and all item submissions are due for her signing event by June 4th, 2021. So get your window bags ready. There's a whole lot of signing events that people might want to send off their comics to. Check those details out on CGC's website for further information. We got a very cool piece of G.I. Joe related news drop today, as the poster for Snake Eyes dropped, featuring the unmasked Snake Eyes, which we knew what the actor looked like because his image is out there. It's pretty obvious. But Snake Eyes unmasking is a pretty rare thing, so it's pretty cool that we get that right on the poster. And we can tell this is going to be a bit of a behind the scenes look at Snake Eyes. It'd be interesting to have a silent protagonist throughout the entire movie. We'll see what they end up doing. But we're at least going to see his face in the poster. This film will also star versions of Storm Shadow, Scarlet, and the Baroness, so we're going to get some other classic G.I. Joe action. By the time you're watching this, the trailer probably dropped. I think it's supposed to drop during the MTV Movie Awards. And also the movie is going to premiere only in theaters on July 23rd, 2021. I do want to warn you that there's a bit of editorializing that's going to happen in this next story. And I want to thank ETA Nick on YouTube for sharing the story and making me aware of it. I just watched his channel and he posted a great video about this. I'll link it above because I really think you should go check it out. Basically, the story that he's sharing is that somebody that's a viewer of his channel commented or messaged him and told him that they had submitted a book in the modern tier to CGC for grading. They got the book back and they thought, you know what, I bet you I can get a higher grade on this. And they decided to resubmit again in the modern tier. Well, as we all know, CGC is very backed up right now. And as they were waiting for that book, and they waited, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long it was taking for them to get that book back. And when they noticed that the grading finally came in, they got a message saying that that book's value required it to be bumped up to the express tier now. So if you're somewhat unfamiliar with CGC, what this means is if you submit to the modern tier, there's a price cap of what the item can be worth. But the thing is, items are going up in value pretty much overnight all the time right now. And if CGC has your book long enough, isn't it fair to assume that the value could skyrocket on a book? And how are you supposed to account for that? But that's not even the biggest problem with this. The biggest problem with this is express tier grading is supposed to be faster, as the name implies. And this person still had to wait just as long as they would have as if it was graded in the modern tier. So they received none of the actual benefit of what the express tier is supposed to offer, but yet they were still asked to pay what the express tier goes for. And this just seems all kinds of wrong. I really like the point that Nick made in his video, which is that graders need to get busy grading and stop triple checking the values on comics to make sure they're charging the right amount for which tier that they're grading in. In no way was this move fair to that particular consumer. And if something like this happens to you, I'm going to go ahead and parrot what Nick said in his video. Contact CGC and let them know it's not okay. We definitely don't want this type of behavior to continue, and we need to let them know that consumers aren't going to put up with this. So our final story of the week is about all kinds of collectible cards, sports cards, Pokemon cards are going to stop being sold in Target stores. Target is halting all sales of sports card, collectible cards, and Pokemon cards after a physical altercation occurred in one of their Wisconsin locations. From what I understand, the store went into a temporary lockdown after an assault occurred in their parking lot. I believe 4 men assaulted another man. I don't know the specific details as of right now about what happened in that particular altercation, but Target wants to ensure the safety of its customers. This, of course, comes amidst an entire boom in the collectibles industry. Comic books are one example of that, so are sports cards, Pokemon cards. With record sales and auctions happening, people are hunting all kinds of cards in record numbers. And unfortunately, it led to violence in this situation, and Target does not want to promote that sort of atmosphere. At this point, we do not know if Target will ever or when they will ever begin selling cards again, although they did make it sound like this was a temporary move. It'll be interesting to follow this story as it develops. All right, that wraps up all of our news stories for the week. If you've heard about a news story that you want shared on the channel, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I will read all those comments. And I do want to remind you that I have a Ko-fi account if you'd like to donate to the channel. That's one way in which you could support me. Thanks for watching this video, and I want to remind you, as always, hey, 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 hey. Read comics every day.